professional level. This is why.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Baseball Recruiting Deep Dive. We're joined today by Northwestern recruiting coordinator and hitting coach Tyler Rost. Rost. All right, we got it. Tyler, tell us kind of your background, how you got to Northwestern, the entire path.
So this will be year 15 for me coming up coaching college baseball. Started at my alma mater, Cedarville University, coached there for a couple of years, and then went to a Division III school, Greenville University, got my master's degree, was a GA there for a couple of years, and then she was girlfriend at the time, became fiance. We got married and moved to North Carolina, so I started coaching down there. Was at a junior college for a year. Winston-Salem State Division II school down there for a couple of years, and then moved over to North Carolina Central. Was recruiting guy and hitting guy there for a couple of years before going to Duke as director of player development. Loved my 3 years at Duke under Coach Pollard, and then was fortunate enough to be able to come up here a couple of years ago. And this will be year 3 for me up here at Northwestern.
Awesome, man. Just give us a little bit of background, just on Northwestern for the listeners who might not know. Obviously, a ton of detail between obviously location, enrollment, like common majors within the school. Any background you can give would be awesome.
Yeah. So Big Ten school. The Big Ten conference is coast to coast now with those West Coast schools joining.
Yep.
So I think it's a really exciting baseball conference. Obviously, UCLA made a lot of noise this year. But in terms of location, we're just outside Chicago. It's nice not having to live in the city, but also have access to it. So we're a northeast suburb right on Lake Michigan. It's a town called Evanston. There's about 76,000 people in the town of Evanston. The school itself is right on the lake, so it's a unique setup. We've got 2 or 3 private beaches on campus, which you wouldn't necessarily normally think of when you think of Chicago. But
Yeah, for sure. I wouldn't think of that.
We have a sailing school, so you can minor in sailing here at Northwestern if you want.
Wow.
But it's like small school feel with big time athletics, big time academics. There's about 22 or 23,000 total students, but only about 8 or 9,000 of those are undergrads that live on campus. So it's really like intimate setting, family oriented, but obviously you have the Big Ten athletics and then the top 10 degree to go with it.
Tyler, obviously, you mentioned in kind of the introduction, you worked under Coach Pollard at Duke, who's now at Virginia. Talk us through kind of what you learned from him. Obviously, he's considered one of the better coaches in the country now. What are the things you learned under him that you've taken with you in your process at Northwestern?
I think the biggest thing was just how detail oriented he was. There was no detail was overlooked. There was no small job. I think it was my first exposure to, Power 5 baseball and what it looks like to be a top 10 or top 25 team in the country.
Yep.
And just how organized and how efficient and how focused he was all the time. He didn't do anything that he didn't expect us to do. Like it was like he was a machine when it came to like, this is how a program's going to be run. This is, the culture aspect. This is the recruiting aspect. This is how we do things on campus. This is how we do things when we travel. It was like he was so well organized and thought out with every single facet of the program. It was really impressive. So, as a young coach, it was like, hey, I don't want to let this guy down. I need to try to match his level of expertise and his level of focus and work ethic. And, I just felt like he set the example for everybody. And it was really fun to learn from him.
Yeah, so obviously being the player development guy there, what roles did you have like assisting you worked with what's his name? Eric. He was the hitting guy when you were there, right?
Yeah.
So like how did you guys work together there and how have you brought that collaboration to your role at Northwestern?
Yeah, I think I did a lot with the offense. When I started, Jason Steen was the hitting guy there.
Right.
So worked with him. And then, like you said, the last year and a half or so, it was Eric. And so like working hand in hand with those guys to try to, find ways to incorporate technology, to find ways to dive into the data more, to be analytical with how we did things. It was less like, okay, your swing needs to be here, your hands need to be here, and more so like, okay, I think we can leverage your data and kind of tweak your approach when
Yep.
you face this type of arm. For example, like one of the things that I feel like we did there that I brought here was like using the blast data to try to tweak approaches. If your
Yeah.
vertical bat angle is going to be this, it allows you to hit pitches in this part of the zone better versus like,
100%.
okay, this guy has a really depthy breaking ball. Like maybe we need this guy in the lineup instead of this guy because his swing plays more to that pitch plane. So I think just trying to find unique ways to develop players, but then also in-game strategy and trying to leverage as much of that as we could to win baseball games.
That's awesome. And that's a great point because I think nowadays what you see with technology is it's more, well, this is what the blast data is showing. Let's change his swing, get him to do more of this. But what you're saying is like, hey, he's got a more vertical bat angle than your average guy. He needs to attack the lower part of the zone, right? Like he needs those guys, those pitchers, those sinker guys, or guys that live in the bottom of the zone. Like that guy's going to be successful. And a pitch at the top of the zone, maybe he just needs to lay off of that. Hope it gets called a ball, so I like that because it's almost this guy he's everyone has strengths in certain parts of the zone. Um, and so I think that's a good segue into, best year for Northwestern since 2005 is obviously that's a big part of it, right? The stuff you've learned from Duke and everything. But what is it as a whole you think that's kind of pushed Northwestern into like this better direction?
I think it starts with, BG, Coach Greenspan. I think his vision for the program and how he's kind of said this is how we're going to go about things and this is how we're going to build it. We're not going to take shortcuts. We didn't come in and overhaul the roster in 1 year. That's not the nature of the school and that's not how he wanted to build this. So I think it's been a process, but his first thing was we need to get the right people here. And so, whether it's coaching staff, support staff, the right players, like finding the right people that buy into the vision and want to work hard and believe that Northwestern can be, a top 25 team in the country. I think that's kind of
Yeah.
where it started. And then if we get the right guys in that we can develop, then we think things can take off. And I think you've seen that a little bit this past year with some of the portal guys that we brought in. It was like, let's identify really good athletes that maybe just didn't get a chance at the school they were at or just haven't put it together yet. And then we feel like what we can do on the player development side is take those guys to the next level and give them an opportunity to do it on the field. And so I think we've started to get there. We're a long ways away from where we want to be, but I think you started to see some flashes last year where it's like if we can bring in those types of guys with high upside, I think this can be a place where guys can come and develop, and then we can win a lot of baseball games too.
Yeah. So staying on Greenspan, obviously a super well-respected coach in the business. He's had success pretty much everywhere he's gone. Just speak to what are some of the things in your opinion, seeing him go through the recruiting process with guys, seeing him coach players on field, like what are some things that really jump out to you that a kid should want to come play for him and for his program?
I think he's really thoughtful with conversations. I think he asks really good questions. Like he truly wants to get to know each player. And like part of it's not okay, I'm going to ask questions to try to lead this guy down a rabbit hole so that he feels like Northwestern is the place he needs to be. It's like I truly want to get to know you as a person. I want to get to know your family. I want to know what motivates you. And like maybe this is the right fit for you and maybe it's not, but the deeper we can dive into conversation and the better our relationship gets, the quicker we can figure that out. And so I think it's truly coming into the recruiting process without an agenda. It's like obviously we like this kid and we want to put our best foot forward, but we want it to be the right fit on both ends too. And I think that really comes through with him where sometimes, you feel like, okay, we need to hide certain things or we need to slant the conversation a certain way to put our best foot forward. But I think, he's very much true to himself and true to the program where it's like, this is what Northwestern is. This is who I am as a coach. I want to get to know you and I want you to be vulnerable just like we are. And so I think that's a big part of it is like, he truly cares about the players. He truly cares about, their families and developing them as people. And, I haven't heard him oversell the place or oversell himself. It's just, this is who we are. Like, I think we have a chance to build something special here. Do you want to be a part of it? And, I think obviously the talent identification piece is big. You can look at the guys he's recruited: Kyle Schwarber, Spencer Torkelson, Brooks Lee. Like, he obviously knows what good baseball is too. I think you got to have both, but I think he's truly like a people first person, and that's pretty evident after one or two conversations with him.
Tyler, so you bring up that talent evaluation part there at the end, and uh, what are the types of players, the attributes? I mean, obviously you're a hitting guy, but you're watching pitchers too. Like, what are the attributes of the players in high school that Northwestern's looking to recruit?
I think we want really good athletes, really, really good movers. Body types help. If a guy's 6'5", a lot of times there's more ceiling for development left there. And it's
Yep.
not to say we won't take small guys. Our starting left fielder last year is 5'7". So
Yep.
I think they come in all shapes and sizes, but we want to identify elite movers and elite athletes. And if the baseball skill side's a little raw, that's fine, because we think that we have the resources to be able to develop that side of it here. And so I think that's where we start, is like, if we can find really good athletes and then combine it with high levels of compete and work ethic, I think that's our, kind of recipe for success here. We're not going to get the kid that's polished, who's probably a first rounder, and throw a bunch of money at him to stay out of the draft and come to Northwestern. For us, it's like finding the guy that's under the radar, but he comes here and in 3 years he is a first or second rounder,
Yeah. Yeah.
because of the development piece, because of his potential. I think that's our niche here. And whether it's, a guy or two out of the portal, or what we would prefer is a high school guy so we can have him for 3 years, that's kind of how we've said we want to build the program here, and be able to develop draft picks and guys that get to the MLB.
Yeah. So staying on the portal side of things, obviously you guys have had some a good amount of transfers, I would say, from at least looking at last year's roster. I haven't seen what you guys did this year, but how does that kind of look for you in the future? Like, I guess, are you planning for X amount of spots a year? Is it going to be kind of just talking about it through the season where you may need to kind of fill gaps, or how are you guys approaching that for the future?
Yeah, I think last year, we were kind of forced to go portal heavy, just because by the time we got the job, there weren't a lot of 24 high school kids left, and
Yeah.
so it was kind of like, we have these needs. It's so late. I mean, even with the admissions process here, that sticks into it too. So last year you saw a lot of portal guys. Um, this year, I think, is more true of what we want it to be, where it's kind of a mix of both. We have 9 really good high school kids coming in, and I think we have 7 or 8 portal guys coming in. And so I think going forward, the recipe is like 8 to 10 high school kids, and then probably 4 or 5 portal guys, where it's like, we have this immediate need out of the portal. We weren't able to bring a high school kid in, or, we had a guy drafted who we thought was going to come back and play center field. He ended
Yeah.
up getting drafted because he blew up the second half of the season. Like, it's too late to add a high school kid. We need to go fill that with a grad guy in the portal for a year. I think that's kind of how we view the portal. I think the graduate school here at Northwestern is a perfect fit for guys that want to come in and do a 5th year. And so
Yep.
I think it's perfect to be able to bring in guys with experience to help your young guys out too, where it's like, we can bring in a couple arms out of the portal who are grad guys that have experience on the mound, and they're not going to take innings away from freshmen. They're going to add to what we have, and they're going to help develop those guys. So for us, we kind of view the portal as filling the immediate holes that we have, and then the bulk of our recruiting is going to be on the high school side, where it's we can get our hands on those guys for 3 years and we can really develop them.
Tyler, you kind of hit on it there near at the end, just talking about the graduate school, but I wanted to kind of get your take on you got your guys' use of the portal, because Northwestern is a very high academic school, and usually those D1s that are high academic, they have to be, they can't just go after any guy in the portal. Is that the case with Northwestern? Or you guys, I mean, they still have to be pretty good fit academically to get them in?
Yeah, it's got to be an academic fit. There's a little more wiggle room with grad school just because we have
Okay.
so many grad options. It's a lot easier to get into grad school here, especially depending on the program that you do. But in terms of undergrad transfers, they've got to meet a certain threshold, and the classes have to transfer as well too. So it's you can't just go find anybody out of the portal and he can get in. There's got to be a degree requirement, that he's hit so far, whether he's an incoming sophomore or junior. We can't take incoming seniors. So it's either got to be a guy who's finished his freshman or sophomore year, has made enough progress towards his degree,
Yeah.
and then, the right classes and the right GPA has to be there too.
Yeah. What about on the high school side of that for you guys? Obviously, still not requiring a test score, correct?
Yep.
What are your basic academic requirements where you look at a kid's transcript and it's, hey, yeah, this is a kid we can move forward with.
Yeah, there's some wiggle room there. There's not a hard set GPA where it's like if you don't have a 3.7, you can't get in. I think the biggest thing that they want to see here is that you're challenging yourself in the classroom. Are you prepared for Northwestern when you get here? And so I think like honors and AP classes are typically the biggest separator, where they would rather see a 3.5 GPA with some honors and some APs than a 3.8 or 3.9 with all general classes and you took 3 study halls as a senior.
Yeah.
So usually what we tell guys is like, you've got to continue to challenge yourself. You need 4 cores your senior year. You got to continue to take math classes. You don't need a 4.8 GPA with 10 APs to get in. But, if you have something that starts with a 2, it's probably not going to happen. And if you don't have any honors or APs, it's going to be really tough too. But, if you're a 3.6, 3.7 and you've got a couple honors and a couple APs, then it's really doable.
Wow, that's interesting. Okay, so back to the just high school recruiting trail. Tyler, what are those behaviors you see out on the trail that are big red flags, and even a player you may think, yeah, I kind of like this guy, but I've seen that a couple times now and I'm out. Like I just can't. I'm not going to want to work with that.
I think like intangibles, body language is a big one. Um, I saw it a couple times this summer where it's like guys pop a ball up and they don't run it out, or we like when guys show emotion. We want high levels of care and high levels of compete. So the emotion part's fine. It's
Yep.
just that when it affects your play, when you don't run a 90 out, or you walk back to the dugout and you don't high five a guy, or your guy teammates trying to pick you up and you blow them off or whatever. So like I think the bad teammate, the bad body language is a big red flag, because if you're frustrated at the high school level, wait till you get to college and everybody's
Yeah.
that much better. I think like on like the skill side of it, for me, if I watch a guy swing and miss a bunch at the plate, that's kind of a red flag.
Yeah.
I think swing and miss, especially when it's swing and miss in the zone, is hard to fix because
Yep.
get here and guys' stuff is better on the mound and they're throwing harder. So like I like to see guys that don't swing and miss, and kind of the same thing on the mound. Like if you can't command your fastball on the mound, I think that's something that's hard to fix. And
Yep.
you know, small misses are a lot different than big misses. But if it's like I go watch a guy and he sends 5 pitches to the backstop over the first 2 batters, it's usually a red flag, where it's like this guy doesn't have any feel for where the ball's going. We can't give up free bases at this level. If it's small misses and there's maybe the body needs to fill out and some strength is going to help them repeat the delivery and find the release, that's one thing. But those are 2 big things for us, is like swing and miss in the zone with hitters, and then
Yeah.
fastball command on the pitching side.
So on the flip side, I feel like kids are so result oriented, where an 0 for 3 they might think is the worst game in the world, and they're off Northwesterns or whoever's bored. Speak on how these kids can show you that they can still be a decent fit for you if they don't go out and perform their best. Like, what else are you looking at and evaluating throughout the game?
I think for us, like I said before, we want athletes. And so I'm less worried about the results side. The results kind of just confirm what the eyes kind of see. But like if I see good movers in the box and good swings with intent, like, you're gonna ground out, you're gonna fly out, it's gonna happen, you're gonna strike out from time to time. In the field, like I really want to see infielders use their hands and feet in those 3 throws they get in between innings. That really tells me a lot. I may go watch a high school game and the shortstop may not get a single ground ball the whole game, but if he really is deliberate and intentional with those 2 or 3 ground balls in between innings, then I can see a lot. And it's
Yeah.
like, if you happen the one you get in game, you happen to catch it and you throw it away. If you have, the other 21 that you did really well, that gives me a better picture of what you did versus, you know, the guy that takes those plays off or gets out to his position late or something like that. So like I think we're always looking to evaluate as much as possible. And then if the results aren't there in game, if we can see some of those other things that you do, whether it's during IO or if high school team takes batting practice or whatever, like we can see a lot that's not just based on results in game.
Yep. Yep. Let's talk about your Northwestern's recruiting timeline. Are you guys still wrapping up 26s before? I mean, obviously, I know you've watched 27s, and I know one of our guys committed, but uh, is as far as 26, are you guys still finishing that class up?
Yeah, I don't know that we'll be done with 26 until admissions tells us we can't get somebody in next summer. We even last spring, I think it was like May, and we went out and our pitching coach watched a left-handed arm who was a senior.
Yep.
So I don't know that there's ever a point where we just completely shut it down and say we're done with that class. I would say probably by the time the spring rolls around, we're focused more on that next coming class. But
Yep.
we're always looking for the right guys, and I don't think we ever kind of cut it off and say, hey, we don't have room to take one more guy if he's really going to be an impact guy. So
Yep.
for us, like we take things slow. We didn't shotgun a bunch of offers out there August 1st to the 27 class. Like we'll take our time with each class and we want it to be the right fit. So I think, 27s we'll still hang around. We'll still be paying attention, especially for us because, we have some needs in that class still.
Yep.
In the 26. And then for 27s, basically for the next couple years, we'll still be recruiting those guys. And obviously you kind of move on and you kind of put those guys on the back burner, but you've always kind of got your ear to the ground especially if it's like, okay, a kid is flown under the radar and he's healthy now, or
Yep.
a kid we were recruiting, picked another school, but then decommitted for some reason. So I think we always kind of leave room for guys that pop late.
Yeah, so with with August 1st, just kind of speak on that date a little bit more and what that really means to you. I think everybody thinks that's the offer week, and if I don't get a Division One offer, then it's not going to happen, or even the month. But for you, it sounds like it's more about building the relationships, making the connections, and just identifying players that can be potential fits, even if it's a year out. So would you say that's pretty accurate?
Yeah, I think we kind of view that as like, the beginning of the relationship for us. We tried to get as many 27s to camp as we could this summer. And, this summer was kind of when we started to get out and watch 27s with a lot of intentionality. And it's like, okay, we like this guy, we like this guy. It's not just shotgun, watch everybody.
Yep.
And so we kind of view August 1st as like, okay, let's call the kids that we liked and that we think could be potential fits. And the only way that we would put an offer out there August 1st is if the kid had come to a camp, we'd been able to interact with him at camp, we've been able to, speak to the parents at camp and get to know the kid and allow him to see the place too. So for us, the majority of August 1st is calling guys and saying, "Hey, this is who we are. Do you have interest in us? If you do, like we want to further the conversation." And then typically the next step for us is to if it's a pitcher and I talk to him, I get him on the phone with our pitching coach. If our head coach calls him, then usually I follow up. Or if it's an infielder that I talk to, then Cody, our infield guy, will call him the next week. And then, eventually it's like, hey, there's a lot of mutual interest here. Let's get you to campus for a visit. I think it's really hard for guys to commit to schools if they've never been to campus. And
Yep.
for us, we view campus as a pretty special place. So that's kind of like the next step in the process. But that August 1st date, it's not an offer date for us. It's let's start to know guys and let's kind of begin the relationship.
It's funny, Tyler, because I know a lot of parents out there think that every Division One school on August 1st gives out all their scholarships on August 1st or that first week. And so it's great to hear because part of what we do is like making sure parents understand like that's not how it works for a lot of programs. Some programs do that, some programs don't. Um, and so it's nice to hear that. Here's an interesting one for you. So at Northwestern, obviously, it's a very high academic school and great baseball. What are the things you've seen over the last couple years that your freshmen are really struggling with when they get on campus? Is it the baseball? Is it the academics? Is it the weight room physicality stuff? Like, what is that you've seen over the last couple years?
I think the biggest thing is just volume. Like, guys aren't used to being on the field that much and practicing that much. And
Yep.
so I think by the end of the fall, the freshmen are absolutely toast.
Yep.
And, it's a combination of weight room 4 days a week. You have your 45-day practice segment where you're going 6 days a week. You're inter squatting usually 3 days a week. And so I think just the pure volume aspect of it, and that carries over into the spring too. And it's like freshmen aren't used to playing a 56 game regular season and then playoffs after that. All the travel, the plane rides. Like, I think our guys handle school pretty well. I think our academic services department does a great job helping those guys, setting them up for success.
Yep.
There's always some time management stuff and studying and things like that. But the biggest thing that I've seen is just freshmen aren't ready for the pure amount of volume and time you spend on the field.
Yeah.
You typically get 3 or 4 weeks into it, and freshmen arms are sore and their hamstrings are shot. And it's like, hey, like you like we're
Get
like
used
4 weeks.
to
Yeah.
it.
This is the reality. And like if you want to play professional baseball, it's
Yep.
7 days a week. And
Yep.
you need to get used to being able to get your arm hot 7 days a week, and your legs have to be able to go. And I think like them understanding what it takes to prepare for that, and then also learning how to play through, like, yeah, you're going to be sore. You need to figure out how to play through that. If there's a real
100%.
if there's a real injury, our training staff and our medical staff are really good. Go see them, get it figured out. But like your arms, the only day your arm's going to feel 100% is probably the first day you show up here in the fall.
Yep.
And you've got to be able to play through it. You've got to be able to find that next level, that next gear. And so I think just acclimating those guys to what it looks like physically on a daily basis is probably the biggest struggle.
It seems like there's like a generational divide on this because there's so many guys now. It's almost like players are not told that in the sport of baseball, like you said, Tyler, it's like after that day one or after week one or week two, no one's playing at 100%. Like if you're a position player, you're a speed guy like I was. I mean, your hamstrings are inflamed, they're sore, but you got to play if you want to be on the field. And so I think that's interesting because it just seems like now more than ever, a lot of the guys I deal with, sometimes you feel like they think if anything is bothering them, they can't play. And I'm like, dude, if you're going to play in college or you're going to play professionally, you're going to be sore every day.
Yeah, 100%. And it's like that's why I think part of the recruiting process for us is identifying guys with high levels of compete. And
Yep.
you know, typically your two sport athletes understand that a little better because they're coming off of football and basketball season rolling right into baseball. But I think, it's something we try to identify, but you're always going to have to push guys, and guys just kind of have to understand like, hey, I need to be able to grit my teeth and get through this. And maybe I need to reassess my sleep routine or my nutrition or whatever it is, because this, it's not sustainable how sore I am, or
Yep.
this is just the training block that we're in, and you push through it and things will get better in 3 weeks or whenever it is.
Yeah. So, Ty, what is your approach to the development with those freshmen when they get there? Like, how early are you hands on with guys making adjustments? Are you letting them fail a little bit before you say, "Hey, we got to figure this out"? Like, what does that leash look like, and what's kind of your overall approach to it?
I think for me, especially with our hitters, it starts as soon as a kid commits. There can't hands-on coach them when they commit, but that's when the development process starts. And it's like, hey, I want you to keep me updated with video, and let me know how the swing feels. Let me know if you're struggling with something, so that by the time they get to campus, we have a year and a half, 2 years of a relationship where there's some buy-in there. It's not just a kid shows up and doesn't know who I am. We've never talked about his swing or approach or anything.
Yep.
So I think if we can do that, it really speeds the process up. But I tell all of our guys, like, listen, if you come here in the fall, and you're going to hit 400 with 6 home runs in the fall, I will not say a word to you. Like, you just go, if you want to hold the bat upside down and that's how you hit, like, I will not say a word. Go do it and go hit. Um, so typically it's pretty hands off the first week or so. Like, I'm going to talk routines with them. I'm going to try to ask them questions and dig into the history. Like, why are you doing this? Why are you doing this? There's some movement assessments that we'll do in that first week. We incorporate the motor preferences assessment into what we do. And so it's a lot of background. It's a lot of understanding how guys move and how they operate and swing thoughts and cues and things like that. And then typically, we hit the ground running with scrimmages almost right away. And so then it's easy to approach guys and say, hey, like, okay, you struck out 3 times last weekend. Let's dive into that a little bit. Because I think there does have to be a level of failure before you really get the buy-in there.
100%.
I think it's again, using the data, using the resources that we have too. It's not just, hey, like, I think you need to do this, let's switch it. It's like, first of all, what do you think about this? And then it's, okay, this is what the data says, this is what the video looks like. Like, I think this is where we need to go in order for you to be successful.
Tyler, talk about how important, because I'm starting to ask this now on every one of these we do, because I just think parents and players just don't understand how important that freshman fall is in determining your role on the team that spring, but also like the rest of your career. So talk it through, just how important that freshman fall is, and how important it is for guys to come in ready to go to show what they can do.
Yeah, I mean, we start evaluating day one, and we tell guys that from the jump, like, hey, your opportunity to earn playing time in the spring starts today. And is it, if it's, you have a bad fall, is there no way you're going to play in the spring? No, it's not true. But the guys who perform really well in the fall typically have a longer leash in the spring because we've seen it for a bigger sample size.
Yeah.
And so I think for freshmen, like, you have the opportunity for a blank slate. Like, no one really knows how you interact with teammates. No one really knows your demeanor on the field. Like, we like to think we have a pretty good idea of the character of the kid through the recruiting process, but you kind of have a blank slate to be who you want to be. And so we tell guys, this is your opportunity. Like, the legacy that you're going to leave at Northwestern starts right now. And
Yep.
You've got 3 years if you're a draft guy, 4 years if you're not, to leave that legacy. Don't waste a day of not getting better, or don't waste a day not leaving your legacy to the best of your ability. Because I think every day matters. And, like, it's funny because it probably shouldn't be true, but there's always something that a freshman or somebody will do in one game that you're like, wow, that was pretty good. And, like, you keep coming back to that. Like, we had a kid last fall. He kind of struggled in the fall, but, like, he hit an absolute mammoth home run. And, like, we just kept coming back to, like, man, it's in there. Like,
Yeah.
we've seen it. And, like, it's not a big sample size. Maybe we shouldn't put as much stock in that, but, like, you never know when you're going to do something that's going to make an impression. And you never know, on the skill side, on the mechanic side, when something's going to click too. And so we tell freshmen, like, you need every opportunity you can get right now to get better, because you're in a new place. You have new opportunities. Like, your opportunity for growth in the weight room is huge this fall. You've got to take advantage of that. You've got to meet with our nutritionist. And then obviously on the baseball side, you're trying to get acclimated to college baseball while also earning playing time, while also figuring out how to interact with teammates. Like, it's a lot, but it's also exciting because the opportunity is huge. And for us, we want freshmen to play. And so none of our freshmen are going to come in and look over their shoulders and have 6 transfers at the same position. It's like, we recruited you guys with the intention that you're going to be impact guys right away. And so, you're going to have to earn it, but the opportunity's there. And I think a lot of those guys are excited once they see that and once they get going.
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. Not to jump all over here, but I didn't want to forget to ask. So obviously you talk about motor preferences, you talk about blast motion, like, clearly there's data-driven development in the program. How do you balance that with kids that may not do so well with that the kid that's just athletic, that gets up there, that hammers fastballs, that data might be too much for him and he
Yeah.
can't handle it? Like, how are you approaching that with each guy? Is everybody getting their profile or movement profile, their blast data, or are you picking and choosing, like, hey, this it's good for this kid but bad for this one?
Yeah, I think it's very much picking and choosing. And I think it's my job as a hitting coach to meet with guys and develop the relationship enough to where I know what guys can handle and what they need. And sometimes those are different too. Like I know this guy wants this, but he probably can't handle it. We need to attack it in a different way.
Yeah.
Or like everybody's going to get motor preference assessed. Everybody's going to wear blast data. Some guys see that data and they interact with it themselves. Some guys only get to see it if they come into my office. Other guys like don't want to see it and we don't ever talk about it and they don't need it. And so it's we have it if we need it, but I think figuring out what motivates each guy and what each guy can handle is really important. And I think like making it actionable for each guy is like the secret sauce, where it's like, okay, this guy's much more of a feel guy. How do I make his early connection number on blast resonate with him as a feel? Like, is it okay? You need to feel your barrel in this position to produce this blast number. Or does he not even want to know about the blast number? And I can look at the blast on his phone and I can say, okay, this is more of the feel you want. And I don't ever tell him about the blast number, but like I can see the blast data and I can make it resonate with him through a swing feel or swing thought or external cue or whatever it might be. So
Yeah.
I think trying to figure out what works for each guy the best is, what makes hitting coaches better than other hitting coaches. And it's hard to get to know guys because a lot of guys want all the data, and trying to tell guys like, hey, you can't handle this is really hard sometimes. But I think putting each guy in a good position, and we at Northwestern, you have super intelligent kids that want all of the data. And sometimes it's like, hey, like you can't handle all of this data. Like you need to just like, this guy throws 90 miles an hour and he has an 82-mile-an-hour slider, like just go hit. And that frees guys' minds up a lot too. And then you have some guys that are walking to the plate and they're looking back into the dugout saying like, hey, what's his fastball percentage in a 2-1 count? And like, some guys handle it and some guys don't. So trying to figure out, what makes each guy the most successful and the most prepared. Because I think like at the end of the day, you want guys to be confident in the box. And, confidence comes from being prepared and also from past success. So if we can prepare guys as much as we can and breed that confidence in them, then it starts to show up in game.
Yeah.
Tyler, so you talked about motor preferences. That's kind of the new thing in development. I've read the book. I've done a bunch of videos on it. When I first read the aerial versus terrestrial thing, I was like, oh my gosh, yeah, I was trying to be a terrestrial. I was an aerial my whole career, so that all makes sense. Why all my buddies were doing stuff, and I'm like, man, this doesn't feel right, Are there parts of the motor? So how did that connection come about? Like, where did you kind of get introduced to it? And then is there anything with the motor preferences? Because for me, the deeper you get into it, kind of like the eye, like the motor eye thing, I started thinking, okay, maybe this is a little like maybe like we talked about, a little too complicated for some players. But how did you get introduced to it? And then what are your impressions of it?
So it was like 2 years ago around maybe October, November. And the softball team in Northwestern is really, really good. Like
Yeah.
a ton of Big Ten championships. Kate and Carol have been here forever. They're legendary in the softball world, like awesome coaches. And so Carol comes down to our office one day and she's like, hey, like, I don't know, I've been coaching a long time. I've been a hitting coach for a long time. I feel like I just learned something brand new that has completely rocked my world. And we were
Yeah.
like, okay, like if she's saying this, then it's a big deal. And so she told us they went to a conference. So we sent our pitching guy, Ben Kaiser, down and he went and he did the course. And so he came back and we went through it all and we watched a ton of videos and, watched some different presentations and things like that. And we started to implement it. And so that's how we kind of got introduced to it. It's really insightful. Like you said, when Kai's came back from the convent or from his conference, I was like, hey, you got to put me through the assessment. Like I want to be able to understand how it resonates with me so that I can help our guys. And like
Yeah.
he did the same thing with me. He was like, you're an aerial, you want to initiate rotation with your front leg. And I was like, that makes a lot of sense because I was so good like hitting out in front. And like
Yeah.
everyone always said, like, get into your back hip, get into your back hip. And I was like, I can do it because I practiced it 4 million times, but like it doesn't feel right.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I'm way better when I'm out on my front foot. And like it's fun. Like I still swing sometimes, but like I implement it into like my golf game a little bit because there's a lot of room for growth there. So like just like being on the balls of your feet was something brand new. Everyone's always like, yeah, like get into your glutes, get into your hamstrings, be on your heels, like get your back heel
Yeah.
on the ground. And like for me, I always felt way better when I was loose and on the balls of my feet. And
Yeah.
so we put each of our guys through an assessment. BK does the pitchers, I do the hitters, and then I think it just gives me a framework for how their body wants to move. And for
Yeah.
some guys, we never talk about it, and for other guys, it's like, hey, let's try this. Like your motor preference assessment says that you want to move like this. Have you ever tried this before? Or, is it something that feels natural, doesn't feel natural? Like sometimes it's like, hey, I think your setup is not allowing you to get the most out of your body that you can. Let's adjust the setup a little bit. There are some guys that come in super wide in their aerials, so we stand them up and it frees them up.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think the flexion extension leg thing was the biggest revelation for me, probably, where it's like some guys initiate rotation with the back leg and some guys it's the front leg. And like
Yeah.
typically that is the leg that you want to hover over as your center of gravity. And so some guys stay back, some guys get forward. There's not a right and a wrong to it. But I think it's given me a framework for helping guys quicker and being more specific. And I joke with our guys all the time, like, you guys are so lucky. Like when I played, it was like, hey, do my hands go here? Do they go here? Here? Should I be lower? Should I be higher? And so I think
Let
like
me just test this out real quick, see if
yeah,
this works.
it was like every day. And it was like you hit a ball well and you're like, oh man, maybe that's it.
That's it. Yeah.
Like, so it gives these guys confidence too. They're like, no, this is how your body wants to move. This is how you want to set up. Like, we'll make tweaks here and there, but like you can have confidence knowing that like your hands are in the right spot. Like your lower half is set up correctly. Let's worry about approach and let's worry about how you deliver the barrel versus like, should I hands be 2 inches lower or higher every day we come in?
Yeah. Yeah. Hey, Tyler, no, thanks for doing this, man. Really appreciate it. A lot of really cool insights. Um, Hope to have you on again soon.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you guys having me. Anytime, I'd love to do it.
Awesome.